I think learning organization for me is one that is asking questions, deep questions around their programmatic work, their operational work, and being ready and prepared to get the answers to those questions.
The solutions and context approach, I think, highlights, the importance of, again, asking the right questions. And for me, a learning organization is one that you never say, all right, we figured it out, we're done, let's roll it out.
So the solutions and context memo for me, those three main points it highlighted around asking clear questions, pulling from existing evidence, and being really clear on what your context factors, what might actually be unique, and what sort of main buckets of context factors might apply, deeply resonated with me.
It's not geographies, and I think that paper made a really good sort of case for this, that it's not Latin America or Africa or developing versus non-developing or global versus north, but for a very specific problem that you're trying to solve, very specific variables that would look different. And you might have a context that's similar for one problem, but very dissimilar for another one.
We think a lot about norms around open governance and transparency and accountability and what that looks like on the global stage. And we don't have a lot of evidence about those things. A lot of these norms are newer. On the other side, we've seen global norms exist in a number of other fields. I think the MDGs are a really great example of huge global norms. Now, are they perfectly comparable to the Extractives Industry Transparency Initiative? No, in many ways not. But in terms of seeing how a global norm can help inform and translate into national policy, I think there's a ton of rich lessons that we can be drawing from.
Getting to the pathways of change took a lot of effort. I mean, it started off as just a normal and ordinary conversation as to what do we have in common or what common questions do we have. Because as a donor collaborative, the effort was how could we work together in a consistent way. So there's a global level in terms of global norms and standards. And the thinking is that if global norms and standards are implemented well at the country level, they will create the conditions necessary or the enabling conditions for civil society and citizens to engage. And the idea is that if citizens engage directly with their governments, that will lead to some useful outcomes, a more civic life, citizens really wanting to engage with their governments. And of course, that should also translate into better services for citizens.
It's helpful to have a collaborative or a hub or some sort of place where you can go to say, is there evidence on this before commissioning new evidence? And I think funders, unfortunately, because we work in sometimes siloed ways, because we have different strategies, are probably funding and commissioning very similar things that are duplicating evidence that is already there or that could build on evidence that's already there.
No one organization can test all these hypotheses. So the question is, how do we collaborate in a way that people who work at the global norms level have specific hypotheses, and especially those that are linked to what happens at the country level? How do you collaborate to be able to test those in a systematic way?